Good morning, men and women of Christ. Back with you with another spirit-led teaching, and today's teaching will be the deception of being materially attractive. The deception of being materially attractive. What does it mean to be materially attractive? To be materially attractive means to be seen from a perspective of what you drive, what you wear, where you live, from a perspective of your bank account. Material attraction is when you're seen from a perspective of what you have in the flesh, but not who you are in Christ, the Spirit. So, material attractive is very deceptive because it's material attraction. People are drawn to you, but they're drawn to you based on what they see by sight with an agenda in their spirit. They're drawn to you in the flesh with an agenda hidden in their spirit that you cannot see unless you're alive in faith. This is why we walk by faith, not by sight. So we're able to discern beyond the flesh what is a person's motive for being attracted to us. Whether it be material attraction, whether it be physical attraction, or it could be spiritual attraction because you're spiritually attractive as a man or woman. You're manifesting through the flesh. Who you are is not what is seen. Who you truly are will manifest through what is seen. And when people get a glimpse of that, they can be attracted to that, but they're attracted to you on a deeper level. What is more valuable? When you're materially attractive, you look attractive. What's more valuable, to look attractive or be attractive? Would you rather look attractive or be attractive? Would you rather look rich or be rich? Would you rather look healthy or be healthy? Would you rather look healthy or be healthy? Would you rather look rich or be rich? Would you rather look attractive or be attractive? Of course, we'd rather be these things. God the Father in Christ desires us to be attractive, but eternally attractive through being reclothed in the revelation of Christ, where our beauty is that of the hidden man and woman of the heart, which is of the Spirit. Okay, there's nothing wrong with having the things of the world, but we don't want people drawn to us or attracted to us based on the things of the world, because that's not true attraction. If someone is attracted to you based on seeing you from a perspective of your possessions, that's not true attraction. That's a deadly attraction. That's demonic attraction. There's divine attraction and then there's demonic attraction. That's demonic. When someone is attracted to you based on physical attraction, that's not good, because that's lust. That's not love. Someone can look attractive. It's nothing wrong with looking attractive, but it's more valuable to be attractive. It's not a sin to look rich, but it's more valuable to be rich. Okay, it's not a sin to look healthy, but it's more valuable to be healthy, because the flesh will imitate the things of the Spirit. All it can do is imitate it. The flesh can look the part. It can look like it, but it could never be it. Because our health comes out of our spirit, comes through our spirit. Our attraction comes through our spirit. Remember what Jesus said. It is, no one can come to me except the Spirit draw him or draw her. John 6:63 says, it is the Spirit that makes alive. The flesh profits nothing. So if it is the Spirit that makes alive, everything has to come through your born again spirit. True attraction, the true drawing to who you are, comes through your born again spirit. Then outside of that, everything in the flesh, it profits you nothing. You can't have a relationship in the flesh because the flesh has to come under the government of the spirit. So to be is more important than to look. It is the spirit that makes alive. The flesh profits nothing. Absolutely nothing. No one can come to me. It is written in the written word. Jesus says, no one can come to me unless the spirit draw him. Unless the spirit draw him or draw her. You see, when you become eternally attractive, that's the drawing power. Your husband is coming out of that. Your wife is coming out of that. Material gain is coming out of that. Because Christ has a way of bringing these things to you without you having to do anything for them. He has a way of bringing these things to you in the flesh, all the while you keep your focus on him in the spirit. Because as long as you're abiding with him in the mind of his spirit, it's going to be evident in the flesh by the fruit of the spirit. Because everything in the flesh and the flesh has to come under the government and stewardship of the spirit. So it is far more important to be than to look. To have material gain is good, but for people to be drawn to you from the perspective of material gain is dangerous, because then they're drawn to you by sight, but they have an agenda in their spirit that's hidden from you. If you're not alive in faith, you can't see the agenda. And many of people get caught up in the hype of people being materially attracted to them. Materially attracted to them as a person, but yet sees no value in them as a person. If you want people to be drawn to you, let it be because of the light of Christ shining through you. Because anything outside of that, it ain't going to last. Because you're building on a foundation of deception. Because looking attractive is not the same as being attractive. A lot of people look attractive, but then you think it's love at first sight, but it's really lust at first sight. And what happens is, once you get past the superficiality of them looking attractive, because you're not spiritually compatible, all of a sudden they become unattractive. You're not a match. Because you tried to build something on a foundation that is not of Christ. The flesh is of God, but God is not flesh, he's spirit. So when we build, we have to build on the foundation of the spirit, and everything in the flesh is going to come under the government of the fruit of the spirit. That's true relationships. Anything outside of that is not a relationship. It's just an arrangementship. It's just an arrangement. Mark 4:19. Mark 4:19 says that Mark 4:18 and 19 says that, and these are they which are sown among the thorns, such as hear the word. They hear it in the flesh, but they're not listening to it in the spirit. As such as hear the word, and the cares of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches, that's material riches, and the lust of other things entering in, it choked the word, and it becometh unfruitful. Now, the living word cannot be choked. What it is, they hear in the flesh, but they're not listening in the spirit. So the word is not able to take root through their unborn again spirit. And what is happening is Satan is drawing them away through the lust of the flesh. The cares of this world, the deceitfulness of riches, he's drawing them away in the flesh, so that there's no chance at all for the word to penetrate and take root in their spirit. So he draws them away. He draws them away. The cares of this world. The cares of this world is in the flesh, not the spirit. The deceitfulness of riches, the deceitfulness of thinking money and material gains makes you rich. It doesn't make you rich. We don't come in the world with it. We're not leaving the world with it. What it is, the deception of it is, it makes us look rich. And in that fallen state of death, we think what makes us look rich makes us rich. Only to get it and find out it made you happy, but it couldn't bring you joy. You see, the most foolish thing you could hear somebody say is money don't make you happy. That's absolutely wrong. Money does make you happy. It makes you happy in the flesh, but it doesn't fulfill the joy of the Lord in your spirit. So there's an emptiness and a void there, because money and the material gain of the world is superficial. The joy of the Lord that fills that Christ-shaped void that's in us as spiritual men and women, only the joy of the Lord, which is the Spirit of the Lord, can fulfill that. So it'll make you happy, but it makes you happy as male or female, but it does not fulfill us as men and women. Only the joy of the Lord, which we fell from, can do that. And we don't want to be outside of God's grace, because when we're in the superficial and we have the things that make us temporarily happy, but we don't have the joy of the Lord that makes us fulfilled, then this is where we look, but we don't become. We look attractive. We look attractive as male and female. We look attractive, but we're not attractive. We look healthy, but we're not healthy. We look rich, but we're not rich. Especially when you can separate the flesh from the spirit. When you go from the aspect of looking to being, when it comes to being, we're nothing. We only look the part. And when you only look the part, everything fails. Relationships fails. Everything fails, because people are drawn to you for the wrong reason. They're drawn to you because you're materially attractive by sight. But once again, they have hidden agendas that you will not be able to see unless you're alive in Christ, or we're alive in Christ as men and women by faith. Never accept someone finding value in what you can do as a person, but see no value in you as a person. That's dangerous to have people like that around you. Let us get into the teaching. Let us go to Luke 12, 15 through 21. Luke 12, 15 through 21. Okay, Luke 12, 15 through 21. 15 says, "And he said unto them, Take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's," and this word covers man or woman, "a man's life does not consist in the abundance of things which he possesses." Your life is not in your possessions. Okay, and if your life is not in your possessions, then you should be aware of when people see you from a perspective of your possessions, because we are to be more valuable than what we possess, not our value defined by what we possess. This is why the Lord makes us prosperous. He makes us prosperous. He establishes us in prosperity before he adds to us the provision. Because prosperity is where your worth is on display as a Christian. And then what follows is the financial and material gain that you truly own as a Christian, because ownership is spiritual. Ownership is spiritual. You can have a title to it in the world that says you own it according to the law of the flesh, but according to the law of the spirit, you don't own it, because you don't have the spirit of ownership, which is Christ. This is why so many people are on top in the world one minute, and the next minute they lost it all, because they take false security in things that there's no security in. For example, in the world they try to find security in money. Our security is in Christ. And Christ gives us the ability by the fruit of the Spirit to secure money. But yet the Christian does not find security in money. Only the children of the world do. And that's false security. All right. So your life is not in what you possess, because your life is more valuable than what you possess. But not through the deception of material attraction. They define your life by what you possess. And if you define your life by what you possess, then you don't have a life. Then you don't have a life. You're just deceived into thinking you have a life. And he spake a parable unto them, saying, the ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, what shall I do? Because I have no room where to bestow my fruits. And he said, this will I do. I will pull down my barns and build greater. And there will I bestow all my goods. And I will say to my soul, soul, you have much goods laid up for many years. Take your ease, eat, drink, and be merry. Now remember, he had much. It said his ground brought forth plentifully. Now he was rich, but he was not rich based on who he was in Christ. He was based on what he had by sight. He was based on what he had by sight. You see, financial and material gain, it can only make us look rich as people, but it can't make us rich as people. Because what you possess and you are not the same thing. So possessions make us look rich as people, but possessions don't make us rich as people. But this does not mean that possessions does not have its place with us as people. We just have to have them in divine order. So we don't have an expectation of possessing material gain. We don't have an expectation that fails us, because oftentimes when people finally get to the place where they have financial and material gain, they come up short of what they actually thought it was going to do for them. Because this is not the real you. The flesh is not the real you. The flesh is the imitation of the original you, which fell from Christ and has to be back in Christ. You see, as spiritual men and women, when we're outside of the mind of the Spirit, we don't know any better. We pursue everything by sight because we don't know that the emptiness that we feel from, that we experience from day to day, is through being outside of faith, which is Christ. So we think the things of the world are going to fulfill it, but it won't. Now he says he's going to take his ease. But God said unto him, you are a fool. This night your soul shall be required of you. Then who shall those things be for which you have treasured up? Can you imagine? Can't wait to get to that place to where you can just begin to kick back, relax, and you accumulate and accumulate and accumulate, and you finally get to that place, or you think you're at that place in the flesh, where you're going to be able to rest according to the flesh, but then God speaks to you out of the Spirit and says, tonight your soul shall be required of you. Now who shall those things be for that you have treasured up? Remember, when we mock Christ, God always has the last laugh. The flesh can progress, but it cannot prosper. In the Spirit we prosper, but we cannot progress. We can progress financially and materially, but we can't prosper financially and materially, because progress is where, when we progress financially and materially, it makes us look rich. It makes us look attractive. Only in the Spirit do we become rich, do we become attractive. Being is superior to looking. 21 says, so is he that layeth up treasure for himself and is not rich towards God. So you can have treasure for yourself on earth in the flesh. That's financial and material. but not rich unto God through Christ in the Spirit. Through Christ in the Spirit, that's eternal. You see, when you're rich unto God the Father through Christ, that's where you become rich. When you have treasure unto yourself in the flesh, that's where you look rich. This is why 2 Corinthians 5:7 says, we walk by faith, not by sight. We walk by faith, not by sight. When you're in faith, you're in uncorruption. When you're existing limited to sight, you're in corruption. You see, that's the deception of worldly beauty. It's corruptible. It's not true beauty. It's not true beauty. True prosperity. True attraction. There's no corruption in it. It's pure. There's lust at first sight. There's love at first sight. If you're outside of Christ, that's not love at first sight. That's lust at first sight, because that's based on physical attraction. That's sensual. When it's divine and the Lord has predestined it for when the two see each other, for them to be quickened together spiritually through their spiritual eyes, that's love at first sight. That's not sensual, that's sexual. And sexual does not mean intercourse. Sexual means the ability to have intimacy. The ability to have intimacy, which is not intercourse. True sexuality is the ability to divinely, is the ability that God places in us to divinely enrich the flesh in every aspect of the flesh, including intercourse. But intercourse is not intimacy. Those are two separate things. Those are two separate things. Now, let's take it a step further. Would you rather look sexy or be sexy? You know there's a difference. A person can look sexy and yet you get to know them from a place of intimacy. You're not sexually attracted to them at all. You're not sexually attracted to them at all because you're not connecting through intimacy. Intimacy is the ability to connect on a level beyond which the world can. The world can't have intimacy. They can only have the imitation of intimacy, which is flesh. But they can't have true intimacy, which is spirit. Only those alive once again in their sexuality can. We must separate our sex from our gender. The world in the schools, they're not teaching sex education. See, only the true Christian can teach that. They're teaching gender education because the world thinks their gender is their sex. Because they're dead in spirit, and now the flesh, which is the form of the spirit, is now in the place of the spirit. So they don't know any better. So are they that are rich in this world, but not rich unto God through Christ. Galatians 6, 7, 8, 9. 7 says, be not deceived, for God is not mocked. 8 says, for they that sow to the flesh are of the flesh reap corruption. But they that sow to the spiritual of the spirit reap life everlasting. When you start sowing to the spirit, then you become everything as a man or woman in Christ that you were trying to look like as a male or female in the world. You see, the male and female tries to look the part. The man and the woman become what the male and female were trying to look like. The man and the woman become rich, whereas outside of Christ, the male and the female can only look rich. You have to separate your manhood from your malehood, your femalehood from your womanhood. Because our malehood and our femalehood, it came from the earth, it's going back to the earth. Our manhood and womanhood comes from God through Christ, and it's going back to God through Christ, because Christ is the judgment of God. Christ is the judgment of God. Christ is the judgment of God, the life of God, and the image of God that we fell from. So if we sow to the flesh, we of the flesh going to reap corruption. If we sow to the spirit, we of the spirit going to reap life everlasting. True attraction, true health, the true riches, which is Christ. We're going to become in Christ everything we try to look like in the world, because I'd rather be rich than look rich. I'd rather be healthy than look healthy. Okay. I'd rather be attractive than look attractive. Galatians 5, 16 through 18. Galatians 5, 16 through 18 as we come to a close. Galatians 5, 16 through 18. Here we go. 16 through 18. 16. This I say then, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. Walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. We walk by faith, not by sight. Walk in the Spirit, but before you can walk in the Spirit, you have to be born of the Spirit. And this is all an eternal work of the Spirit. We have to go from profession of faith, which we had in church, to salvation by faith, which is the gospel. Which is the gospel. In the flesh, we got up in church and went before that church and made a profession of faith. That was according to the letter of Christ. We have to go from the letter of Christ, which is profession of faith, to in the gospel, which can only happen through salvation by faith. All right? So this I say then, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusts against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary one to the other, so that we cannot do the things that we would. Which means the flesh has to come under the government of the Spirit, so that it can fall back in alignment with the Spirit. But if you are led of the Spirit, you are not under the law. If you are led of the Spirit, you are not under the law. What's under the law? Lust. When you're led of the Spirit, what are you in? Love. Under the law, you look attractive by sight. By grace, you become attractive through faith. See, faith is a beautiful thing because it reclothes you in the beauty of eternity. The eternal man is reclothed in the uncorruptible beauty of Christ. The eternal woman is reclothed in the uncorruptible beauty of Christ. Now, we can wrap ourselves up in all the physical attraction, that all the physical attraction, the things that make us attractive to the fallen men and women in the world, but yet those are not real relationships. What you got is people drawn to you by sight with agendas. They're drawn to you in the flesh with agendas in their spirit that you can't see unless you're alive in faith and be able and you have that Christ-like ability in you to discern it. You get caught in a deadly trap. You get caught in a deadly trap because people valuing you because of what you possess as a person, and people valuing you because of you as a person are two separate things. Don't confuse those two things because they are not the same. Nobody can love you. If someone loves you, they love you because of you. And God had to ordain that because God is love. No one can truly love you outside of Christ. They can lust for you and confuse that with love. But they cannot love you. So let's always make sure we are properly walking with God the Father through Christ, because if we're not, we're the ones that's going to pay for it, because we got all kind of people with all kind of agendas surrounding you. And this brings us to the end of part one of this teaching. Sometime I can babble on, but just bear with me. This brings us to a conclusion of part one of this teaching, and it'll be a blessing to you. Because we need to know the difference between material attraction, being materially attractive, and being attractive. They're not the same. They're not the same. We have to discern between looking attractive, being attractive, looking rich and being rich, looking healthy and being healthy. We have to become the things we try to look like in the world. And when that begins to manifest through us, then people are drawn to us beyond what they see, what they naturally see. Because there's something about you that makes them attracted to you, but beyond what they naturally see, because it's an uncommon attraction. It's an uncommon attraction when you become attractive as opposed to just looking attractive. And this brings us to a conclusion of part 1 of this teaching. Love you in Christ. See you in part 2.